Okay, I gotta tell you guys about this movie I just saw. It's called We Can Be Heroes, and it is the sequel to Shark Boy and Lava Girl. It's hard to even call this a sequel, since barely any of the characters from the first movie are in it, and Shark Boy and Lava Girl barely do anything. It's just a generic superhero movie about superheroes getting kidnapped by aliens and their kids have to save them. And Shark Boy and Lava Girl's child isn't even the main character. She's one of the side characters. And the only really little kid in a cast of like 12-year-olds. I think what really pisses me off about this movie is that they promoted it as a sequel to a very popular movie when the characters from that popular movie barely do anything. And it's just a standard superhero movie. They probably just added Shark Boy and Lava Girl for publicity. Dracula has got to be one of the greatest horror movies ever made. Most of that has to do thanks to the amazing performance of Bela Lugosi as Dracula. I don't think he ever blinked during this movie, and that devilish stare is so creepy. And oh my god, he made the iconic look and sound of Dracula, and it's just so good. You want to kiss him for it. But that's not to say that Lugosi is the only good thing about this movie. No, far from it. The film has a very chilling atmosphere, and the lack of music definitely helps with the mood. Also, I freaking love Renfield. He's batshit insane, and I love him. But overall, Dracula is one of the greatest horror movies of all time, and if you haven't seen it yet, what are you doing with your life, bro? I unironically think that Shrek is one of the greatest animated movies ever made. The story is great, being a big middle finger to Disney, and featuring a lot more dirty humor than was typically seen in most family films at the time, and even today, really. The animation was great for its time, and still holds up almost 20 years later. The characters are lovable and have all become a household names from Shrek to Donkey to Fiona to Farquaad. And of course, it's meme status. And really, Shrek is the true definition of a family film. Has great elements that each and every member of the family can enjoy. That, and it became a pretty good Broadway musical, so yeah, Shrek is love, Shrek is life. If there's one word that can describe Follow That Bird, it's charming. This is just a very charming movie. Basically, since there are no other birds on Sesame Street, this lady named Miss Finch tries to get Big Bird a proper home. But Big Bird thinks that his new family are freaking nuts, so he runs away. Now everyone on Sesame Street is trying to find Big Bird and take him home to Sesame Street. I can tell you, the last thing that I expected from a Sesame Street movie be a Hitchcock reference, but here we are. Pretty much all of the main Muppet and human characters from the show at the time get at least one moment to shine in this movie. With the exception of Harry, who doesn't have a single line, and Prairie Dawn isn't even in it. But it's still a nice charming movie with a cute story, nice songs, and of course, the lovable Sesame Street characters. Give it a look.
What is a movie moment that legit changed you?
I've been thinking about this for the past few days on what that movie could possibly be, but I think I found it. I think it's safe to say that Pixar's Soul changed my life. This movie pretty much answers the question that several philosophers have been asking for decades. What is the meaning of life? And this movie says that the meaning of life is to just live it. Doing something as simple as just walking outside, sitting down, take a great breath, and enjoy the silence. And that it's the little things in life that really makes it special. Like for Joe, discovering music for the first time, spending quality time with his dad, and with 22 when she eats pizza for the first time. This film changed the way I view life, and I have to appreciate it for that.
It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece.
Sure, this has absolutely no story, songs that barely connect to one another, and people in cat costumes that are so incredibly sexual that even the most hardcore furries will be put off. But it's a masterpiece! Might I say, a catsterpiece? Kill me. Guys, I'm gonna be completely honest. I really wanted to like this one. It was mainly the animation on Tom and Jerry themselves that got me hooked. Rather than going for realism like the Garfield movies or Alvin and the Chipmunks, they tried to make these CG characters look like the original cartoons, which I will appreciate. But everything else just sucks. Tom and Jerry are side characters in their own movie. The film is actually about a hotel putting on a wedding for two celebrities. It just so happens that Tom and Jerry shenanigans are also happening. Now, the animation and some of the acting implies that there was some effort put into this movie. I said some. The rest is just the same old, let's take this old cartoon, make it hip and modern, and add poop jokes. Don't watch it. Raya and the Last Dragon was a good movie. Fun fact, since I refuse to support Disney Plus Premium Access, I actually saw this film in theaters, and I was like the only person in the theater. That is till a family of 3 came in and sat in the very back, which... okay. But if you guys ever get the chance to see it either on Disney Plus or theaters, do so, because it's a really good movie. This movie definitely gets some Avatar The Last Airbender vibes, but it's to the point where it's not necessarily a ripoff, but more a little bit of an inspiration. My only real criticism with the film is that the message of trusting each other can get a little preachy after a while. But aside from that, I say we have another new animated classic from Disney. Great to see them back at making original animated movies after 5 years. That DuckTales finale, yo. I was completely honest. I was on the edge of my seat throughout the entirety of that episode. It was a good finale, I'm gonna say so myself. Spoilers, of course, if you haven't seen it. The big reveal that Webby is a clone of Scrooge might throw some people off. They might think it's weird, but I think it makes sense, and I think it's cool. It explains why she's so obsessed with the history around the McDucks and everyone else in the family. And all the characters get moments to shine, has cameos from just about every single side character that has showed up, whether it be a background thing or they get their own line. It's sad to see the DuckTales reboot come to an end, but it had a good run, and I'm glad to see it have a satisfying ending. I finally sat through the entirety of the Snyder Cut, and it's pretty good! Did it need to be 4 hours? Hell no! This could easily have just been 3.5. But I thought it was a pretty good improvement from the bore fest that was the Whedon Cut. What the hell even is this picture of Batman? You actually feel the relationship between the different members of the League, and they actually start to feel like a team. Darkseid looks pretty cool, and I would really like to see more of him in a future movie. The action looked freaking great. Jared Leto's Joker cameo was weird, I'm not gonna lie, but still interesting. And by far the biggest improvement from the theatrical cut has got to be Cyborg. He went from being the character that everyone forgot about to probably the best character in the entire film. Overall, the Snyder Cut is a great movie with a pretty slow first half, but a fucking kick-ass second half. Frankenstein is one of the greatest horror movies ever made. It's the story of a man who wanted to play God and ended up creating a monster. But the monster is just a confused soul who doesn't know what to do. But the villagers don't give a shit. This film is the source of a lot of different horror movie tropes, and they've become tropes for good reason because this film used them pretty well. The cinematography is gorgeous, and the black and white gives the film an extra creepy spice. And of course, Boris Karloff is amazing as the monster. Underneath all of that makeup, and without saying a single line of dialogue, he still manages to give an amazing performance. Overall, Frankenstein is a horror classic that everybody should see at one point or another. It may be a little slow at first, but trust me, it's worth it. Anastasia is a good movie. Is it historically accurate? Oh, hell no! Is it a big old Disney clone? Oh, hell yeah! But it's still a well-made movie made by one of the greatest animation directors. The animation, for the most part, is actually pretty good, with the exception of the weird rotoscoping with our two leads. The story is interesting about a woman trying to find her past and where she belongs in the world. The characters are likable and you want to see them be successful in the end. And the songs are catchy as hell. I just think that the character rescue and the magical element in general is just entirely pointless. It always comes across as a shock to me whenever we cut back to the magical stuff after dealing with like 20 minutes with a realistic early 20th century setting. But I still recommend Anastasia. It's a pretty good Disney ripoff that is now owned by Disney. Mortal Kombat is just about everything I was expecting it to be. Really, all I expect from a Mortal Kombat movie is some good action, some kick-ass gore, and yeah, this film delivers. Now, the story, I will admit, is a little bit generic with the standard prophecy bullshit, but it does have some likable characters along the way. Especially Kano, who's fucking awesome. Some of the CG looks like they took it directly out of the games, which, depending on how you view that, is either a good thing or a bad thing. I'll let you decide. But honestly, there's not much I can complain about this movie. It's Mortal fucking Kombat. Were you really expecting a grand epic action movie? It has good action, amazing gore, decent characters, and an okay story, so yeah, this movie's fine in my book. I'm sorry, but we can't be friends if you don't think that Clue is fucking fantastic. They managed to turn a simple board game about finding out who committed a murder, while also finding out which weapon he used and which room he did it in, into one of the funniest films from the 80s. Truly, the best thing about this movie are the characters and the dialogue. The dialogue is so smart, so witty, so clever, and really friggin' funny. And the multiple endings are also friggin' awesome. Sure, it's a little annoying not knowing for sure who the killer was, but I think it's actually pretty clever, allowing us to pick our twist ending, which is very similar to how random the outcomes can be of a board game. Overall, this movie is a classic from its era, and everyone should see it at one point or another. It truly is classic. Guys, The Mitchells vs. the Machines is freaking great. The story is fun and clever about the worst family in the world going on a road trip to take their daughter to college while it's being interrupted by the robot apocalypse. You really get to feel for the family, and they actually do act like a family. They're very likable. The animation is also really, really good. I have been loving the more stylized CG in most animated movies nowadays, and this, definitely a strong contender. It has a good commentary on technology and how we all use it. Plus, the main character Katie is LGBT. Let's go, bro! If you haven't seen this movie yet, please do. You will not regret it. My only problem is that I wish I could have saw it in theaters. Thanks, COVID! Let's take a moment and talk about The Mummy. Nope, not that one. Definitely not that one. I'm talking the OG Mummy from 1932. Like many horror movies at the time, The Mummy is creepy, disturbing, and has an amazing actor as the main villain. Boris Karloff as the Mummy is absolutely fantastic. And it's funny because for the majority of the movie, he's not the typical mummy that we usually think of. For the grand majority of the movie, he's out of his bandages. And I actually really like that. I wish we would see more mummy movies like that. And this mummy never returned for a sequel. All the other movies featured a different mummy. So that makes the original 1932 Mummy one of a kind and definitely worth a look. It's much better than whatever the frick this is. She's mummy thick and the clap of her bandages alert Tom Cruise. Sorry I haven't posted in a week, but let's talk about Spiral! The latest film in the Saw franchise starring Chris Rock. Rock is surprisingly really good in this movie. Since he's mostly known for comedy, I was really hesitant at first seeing him in this role, but after watching the movie, I was really surprised, and yeah, he's one of the best aspects of the film. And Samuel L. Jackson, as always, is great, saying what's possibly the best line in the entire film. Oh, you ought to play a game, motherfucker? But it is still a Saw movie, and the traps are really creative looking, and the kills and the gore look fucking fantastic. And the great thing about this film is that it's newcomer friendly, so even if you haven't seen a single Saw movie, you can still come into this movie and enjoy it. Happy Father's Day, everybody! Let's talk about Mrs. Doubtfire. It's about a recently divorced dad who tries to spend more time with his kids by disguising himself as a housemaid. Or babysitter, or I don't know, something. One of the greatest things about this film is Robin Williams' performance. This is a man who will do literally anything in order to spend some time with his children. That he's even risking jail time here. It's actually kind of amazing that the only thing that Robin Williams got to a proper punishment was supervised visits. The film is also really funny with a lot of memorable jokes. Hello! But it's also not afraid to get more into a dramatic side. I mean, technically it's PG-13, even though most people say it's a children's movie. Overall, just give the film a look. It is really, really good. What's up, guys? I just saw Black Widow. And the film was actually pretty damn good, so here's my non-spoiler review. This film isn't necessarily one of those big Marvel movies that will change the face of the MCU or anything. It'll set up a lot of different things in the future. No, that's not the type of film this is. Really, all this film is an entertaining spy thriller. And yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Not every Marvel movie has to be on the same levels as Endgame. Sometimes it's perfectly fine to have one that isn't going to affect every single movie afterwards and can be relatively self-contained. But since this will most likely be Scarlett Johansson's last film as Black Widow, yeah, I can see why a lot of people were disappointed by this. Especially when we were supposed to get this film back in May of last year. But overall, I really had a great time watching this movie. The relationship between Nat and her family is really strong. ScarJo gives a great performance as always. David Harbour is a lot of fun as the Red Guardian. And the action is top notch. But without getting into spoilers, they did the Taskmaster dirty. I won't get into the big details, but yeah. When people said that it felt like Phase 1, it definitely felt like a move from Phase 1. Though I genuinely had a fun time watching this film. But stay for the post-credit scene. There's only one and there's no animated outro for some reason. Oh, that was weird. I guess they were saving their energy for the opening credits, which are still really freaking cool. I really like the opening credits of this movie. So, yeah, Black Widow. Check it out. Either in theaters or on Disney+. I saw it in theaters because I refuse to support Disney Plus Premier Access in any way, shape, or form. That thing can go fuck itself. Okay, let's talk about M. Night Shyamalan's Old. Based off of the graphic novel Sandcastle, which I have never read and I've never even heard of. Apparently, this film is based on it. I only figured that out because it was in the credits. Basically, it's a bunch of people that are trapped on a beach where they age rapidly. So rapidly to the point where they could die if they've been there for a couple of days. So they have to figure out a way to get off of the beach and also, stop aging. But it's not that simple. There's something preventing them from leaving the beach. But today I don't want to talk about any of the standard Shyamalan bullcrap, like the hokey acting and the completely bizarre writing. No, today I want to talk about a Shyamalan staple, the twist. Apparently the island is actually employed from the resort itself. Used to make medicine or something? And apparently the island isn't really explained on how it can age people up. Apparently the closest thing they get to an explanation that it's Mother Nature's intentions. I don't freaking know. Aren't twist endings supposed to explain everything and give explanations for what's going on? This just makes me more confused. Although the really little kids, the youngest of them, do get off an island. Although they're not that little anymore. They're in their 50s. They tell the authorities, the resort gets shut down, the owner gets arrested, and these kids are just in their 50s now, literally having half of their life taken away from them. Gee, that sucks. Oh, and this movie killed off a 6-year-old girl, and had that same 6-year-old girl get pregnant. At the end of the day, Old is definitely an M. Night Shyamalan film, I'll tell you that. It's Friday the 13th, so today we're talking about Friday the 13th, the original. So Friday the 13th has become one of the greatest and most popular horror franchises ever. But that doesn't change the fact that the original movie friggin' sucks. Most of the film is just really slow and really boring. There are a few good things though. The soundtrack is actually pretty badass. The actress who plays Pamela Voorhees is actually really good. This scene alone is just awesome. And of course, the kills are top tier. But overall, Friday the 13th is just boring. Yes, it has its place in horror history, but most of the stuff that we really like from the franchise doesn't come into play until other films. Hell, Jason Voorhees isn't even the killer. And with the exception of the gore, everything in this film was done better in Halloween 2 years prior. So just stick to that and the sequels. I am behind on a bunch of movies, so I'm just now about to watch Free Guy. This whole front area is just completely pointless now since they do everything up front. Phone on Mute is going to be the greatest movie ever. Alright, looks pretty good. Looks pretty good. A goddamn masterpiece. An employee told me to enjoy my movie, and I didn't say you too! Holy shit, that Eternals poster. Holy shit, Paw Patrol is playing right there. And of course, get out of the movie, it's dark outside. Ooh, scary. But not as scary as that guy. Yeah, so I just got back from the theater, and yeah, that was a really good movie. This movie pretty much answers the question, what do NPCs typically do when they're not being shown? And what if one became the hero of a game? Ryan Reynolds is so likable and so funny in this film. His character is just so naive and optimistic and upbeat, and you just want to give the guy a hug. And the rest of the cast are also pretty good. You got Dustin from Stranger Things as a game designer who finds out what's really going on, as well as his love interest, and both of them are actually really likable. But the character who steals the show in every scene he's in has got to be Taika Waititi as the villain. I mean, it's Taika Waititi, so of course he's great. You can tell that he's having the time of his life as this super despicable, rich game designer jerk type of character. And yeah, he's fantastic in the role. But the film can be a bit predictable in some places, particularly when Guy figures out that he's part of a video game. He goes through all the typical things that you would expect to see when someone finds out that their life is a lie. But I genuinely really enjoyed Free Guy. I also like the fact that they got cameos from real-world gamers in this film, such as Pokimane, Jacksepticeye, Dan TDM, and Ninja. I also like the fact that this movie actually knew how video games worked. Like, there's a lot of movies that are about video games that really don't understand how games are made and how people play them and react to them. This film actually does get the type of idea on what type of people make these types of games and the type of people who play them. So, Free Guy, great movie, highly recommend it. If you haven't seen it already, what are you doing with your life? Oh, and have you seen these video game parody posters that Fox made? Like, holy crap, these are amazing. So I finally got to see Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings the other day. And I find it so impressive on how 25 movies in, the MCU has still managed to find new, different areas and sections that just didn't exist a few movies prior. Not only that, the storytelling in this movie is just really well done. The action is the best action that Marvel has done in any of their movies by far. Definitely gives off the vibes of a classic martial arts movie. The film also has great characters. The character of Shang-Chi is so likable, he will become people's new favorite character. The new Mandarin is definitely up there with some of Marvel's greatest villains. I don't know if he's as great as Killmonger, Thanos, and Loki, but he's up there with one of the greats. Awkwafina gives a lot of fun comedy, and Shang-Chi's sister definitely gives off the Gamora and Nebula relationship vibes, and the relationship with her father is awfully similar to Gamora, Nebula, and Thanos. And the post and mid-credit scenes are also really great, and they give a good indication on the future of the franchise. So yeah, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, check it out, it's a great movie. Okay, I just saw Dear Evan Hansen with a few buddies of mine, and it wasn't very good. Alright, my main problem with this movie comes in two different forms. One, Evan Hansen is a terrible person. He uses the suicide of a person that he barely knew just as a chance to get popular and to make friends and get a girlfriend. Technically, he didn't mean for that stuff to happen, but that still doesn't change the fact that he should have told Connor's parents the truth way sooner than he actually did. But if he did that, then we wouldn't have a movie, would we? And yeah, he technically does feel remorse for what he does. And he does apologize, which is more than I can say for most YouTubers these days. But it does change the fact that he's kind of a psychopath. And my other problem with this film are the songs. Most of these songs are just generic ballads that can easily be swapped out between each other. Lyrically, musically, and even vocally, most of them sound exactly the same. Doesn't matter who's singing it or what the context is. Most of them are all about being lost and then being found again and kill yourself. But there are a couple songs in particular I did really like. The opening song, Waving Through a Window, does a decent job at establishing the tone. Sincerely Me is a lot of fun, and I'm pretty sure this is the only non-ballad in the movie. And visually, most of these songs just suck. Most of them are just characters walking down a hallway, standing still, and then looking in the distance as some flashbacks and flash forwards happen. Other times, those don't happen at all, and we just watch those characters just staring at the other one. And the other ones, the characters just sitting there for the first couple verses of the song, then during the bridge, they stand up, walk to a different part of the room, stares back at whoever they're singing it to, and then just stands there for the rest of the song. I am not joking when Sincerely Me is the only musical number that has interesting visuals and choreography. That, and I did not have a pleasant theater experience watching this movie with a bunch of very, very loud girls around my age, a few rows down, and me and my buddy did not like that at all. So with a bland story, a terrible main character, and some of the most boring musical numbers in film history, I don't recommend you guys watch Dear Evan Hansen. And it sucks, because I really wanted to like this movie. All you gotta do is just believe you can be who you wanna be. Sincerely Me, my sister's hot. Just YouTube this song and you're good. I will be 100% honest with you guys. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie was the movie of my childhood. Like, this is probably the film that I watched the most on multiple different repeating viewings as a child. It's about SpongeBob trying to prove that he's manager material for the brand new Krusty Krab 2. When Plankton frames Mr. Krabs for stealing Neptune's crown, SpongeBob and Patrick have to go on a journey to Shell City in order to find him. SpongeBob comes across all sorts of different characters along the way, while Plankton takes over Bikini Bottom and steals the Krabby Patty secret formula. I love this movie. It's a great buddy road trip movie about SpongeBob and Patrick trying to prove their manhood while learning to accept their inner child. The animation is the perfect example on how to turn a TV show into a movie, given the animation from the show and just boosting up the budget. The characters act exactly like themselves in just about every scene, and it is funny. I personally consider this film the definitive way on how to turn an animated series into a movie. If you're a fan of SpongeBob, or if you're a newcomer, I highly recommend you check this film out. It's really great. It's green like Elfie. Goodies. Haven't even seen the show yet. What the hell is this? What is this? Hello! That whole line is just used the women's bathroom. I mean... So yeah, I just sat through Act 1 of Wicked. Holy crap, the show is amazing, man. Legit, I only sat through the first half of the show. And this is already like S-tier Broadway, I'm telling you guys. There's still a whole other act left. Like, if you guys have not seen Wicked, you have to go see Wicked. Like, do it. So, I'm gonna go back to my seat and watch the rest of the show. And I'll see you guys later when I finish it. So, it's a few weeks later, and yeah, it's really, really great show. The way that this show flips the story of The Wizard of Oz on its head is so clever to the point where pretty much every single modern fairy tale adaptation released nowadays tries to become the next Wicked. There's even a couple Wizard of Oz adaptations, such as Oz the Great and Powerful and the Oz season of Once Upon a Time, that obviously is trying to replicate the success of Wicked. Wicked is one of the most influential Broadway shows of the last 20 years for a reason. And that is because the characters are so likable, the songs are so good, the set is fantastic, and the effects, oh my god, the stuff that they managed to do on stage is amazing. This would make a really good movie if they don't screw it up. So now that you know my thoughts on the show and how significant it is to the history of Broadway, let's look at some of the cool stuff that I got while I saw the show. Technically, I already showed these off in a previous video, but shut up! Got some pins, and I love how they all are based off of various different songs, such as Defying Gravity, For Good, and Popular, forgot the other one, and we also got the classic poster. Speaking of... And last but not least, I got the book that the musical is based on, Wicked, The Life and Times of the Wicked Witch of the West. So yeah, that was a pretty hefty video, a vlog, review, and a haul. I cannot stress this enough. If you haven't seen Wicked already, in person or on your phone, you should definitely go ahead and do so. It is truly one of the greatest musicals of all time. So, you made it to the end of the video. What's wrong with you? But anyway, if you did enjoy this, like, comment, subscribe, all that other stuff. I wanted to get a review of Last Night in Soho out this week, but I just couldn't see the movie. I've been busy with personal stuff. My dog's making a bunch of noise, and I just couldn't get around to watching the movie this week. So I figured, why not just throw in a TikTok compilation, because I won't have time to work on a full review. So, thank you guys so much for watching. More videos are coming very soon, and I'll see you later. Bye.